Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. And this is a special meeting, so if I could get roll call.
Commissioner Laird,
Present and accounted for.
Commissioner Milne,
Here.
Commissioner Nicolason,
Here.
Commissioner North,
Here.
Chairman Friel.
Here. If we could do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And we will begin the meeting with the Health Department facility discussion. Anna.
Thank you for your time today. I will have Commissioner Nicolason provide any beginning remarks.
Mr. Chairman, we as a committee, and I think all the committee members are here today, led by Anna Kinder of the Health Department, and Lisa, formerly of GSG Architecture, has been invaluable. And just wanted to remind us of kind of where we've gone just briefly. When I was appointed to the commission a little more than a year ago, one of the first topics of discussion was the health department building, and as liaison to the health department, I saw firsthand a lot of the issues and problems and limitations that facility currently provides or doesn't provide. A lot of history and work went into the health department coming up with kind of a facility needs, and that was performed by MOA and Brandon Daigle. After we got through the ARPA funding through the state, and with some other funding that the counties received, we've been moving forward on this. And today we're here to look at the committee's recommendation for selection of an architect. And at that point, I'll turn it over to Anna.
Thank you. So basically today what we would like to do is provide you kind of a basis of how we came to our decision, so providing as much material as possible as a whole to be able to see more in depth the process we followed. So if possible, if you could note your questions and we'll answer at the end, just to keep building the perspective. And in a moment I will introduce you to the team, but wanted to review the historical information first. Commissioner Nicolason did provide some of that information for you. As you can see, in July of 2020, we initiated this whole process working with Brandon Daigle, as well as contracting with our National Association of County and City Health Organizers to do a needs assessment and consultation. We've worked extensively to secure the funding with a total of $22.5 million to date, working to receive the $15.5 from Natrona County through ARPA funds. We presented to the SLIB board for the additional $4.5 million for ARPA funds. We have a federal earmark that was initiated by Cheney's office for 1.5, and then Casper-Natrona County has put in 1 million as well. We vetted multiple sites, well over 10. This has been quite a long and lengthy presentation over the time. The selected location became 12th and Conwell, as that is being donated by the city of Casper. So Lisa Hubbard has been providing architectural services for over 40 years. She previously owned GSG and retired in 2017. She is an expert in her field, highly respected, and is highly recommended by city staff. She is a service provider and serves as a liaison to the City of Casper and Casper Police Department, and also is willing to come over and to provide support for us. She's a detail architect as opposed to a design, which gives her tremendous experience with attention to detail. She assisted in the creation of the RFP, taking special consideration to ensure all factors were considered and to get the greatest information as possible. She's very familiar with the requirements of governmental funding, deadlines, and procedures. So as you see, we contracted with her in March of 22, or March 22nd of 2023. The RFP was issued March 30th to 6 Casper architectural firms. It was advertised in the Star Tribune and on the county's website. On May 3rd, 3 RFP responses were received on the deadline, and we did in-person interviews of all 3 firms as it stated in the RFP. We made recommendation today to select an architect to the Board of Commissioners, and our hope is to issue a notice of award to the selected architect tomorrow. It is all based on timing and making sure that we fulfill the duties that we need to for the ARPA funding. All of this has been determined by consistency of what needs to be completed for ARPA funds moving backwards to this day. 3 architectural firms provided response to the RFP fee proposals and scored using a pre-established matrix. GSG Architectural, Hein Bond Architects, and MOA Architecture are the ones that were interviewed and provided information. All 3, as I said before, were interviewed and scored using a pre-established matrix. The selection and interview committee consists of Christy Nelson, who is the Health Department Board Chair, Mike Cometto, who is on the board, Tom Poplick, County Facilities Director, Jared Holbrook, Deputy County Attorney, Peter Nicolason, County Commissioner, Lisa Hubbard, Consultant, and myself, Anna Kinder, Executive Director. We ensured that we had 7 to provide a very well-rounded, holistic approach. So with that, what I would like to do is to turn it over to Lisa to discuss the process and of the scoring.
Thanks, Anna. So on the screen is the kind of score matrix and the summary that we put together. So the items 1 through 8 there are the scoring criteria and the maximum points available. This was all provided in the RFP, so it made an even playing field with every respondent. They knew how to prepare their response, and they knew how it would be scored. So with a total of 80 points available in the RFP, the average scores of the 7 reviewers showed that MOA Architecture was ranked number 1 with 74.7 out of the 80 points. GSG Architecture was second with 66 out of the 80, and Hein Bond Architects was third with 55 points out of the 80. So the RFP stated that we would interview a minimum of 3, so all of these firms moved into the interview phase.
Excellent.
So for the interviews, again, the scoring criteria was provided ahead of time to each of these 3 respondents, so they could prepare as much of an apples-to-apples presentation for the selection committee to review. The maximum total points for the interview was 100. Sealed fee proposals were received from each of the firms. All 3 of them received very specific instructions as to what to include and how to prepare their fees. We were very sure to follow the county's procurement policies, especially taking into consideration that there's some federal money involved. One of the specifics was that the price must have the highest weight or the highest points in the scoring. So taking that into consideration, and looking at the 5 items, the scoring criteria there, you can see that MOA Architecture received the highest score, even though their fee was the highest. They had a score of 78.1. And GSG Architecture was second at 68.7, and Hein Bond, 65, sorry. My site's not good. Hein Bond had 64.3. So there's the scoring of first, second, and third. This isn't on the screen. You might want to jot these down, but if you take away the fee and just look at the qualifications. So there was a total of 100 points less the 30, so 70 points were weighted just on qualifications. MOA score was 66.6 out of that 70. GSG's was 35.7 out of that 70, and Hein Bond was 39.7 out of the 70. So it was very apparent that MOA was the highest qualified, even though they had the highest fee. And their numbers still, when you averaged them all out, were still the highest.
So it is required to have some special consideration for a health department building. We have very unique requirements not seen in any of the other county buildings. Our HVAC system has to have special consideration for airborne illnesses, consistent humidity to prevent particles from floating in the air. The drive-through has been a very proven best practice, zero pressure space to prevent transmission, laboratory space, which currently we do not have, clean and dirty collection areas, massive amounts of storage required for response, or grant specifics, public serving as well as extensive work behind the scenes, serving all of Natrona County. We need the ability to grow, have education space for all prevention education, and what we've learned from COVID, many lessons. Bottom line, majority of the building is a healthcare facility, and I would like to now turn it over to our deputy county attorney that served on this committee to discuss from the legal standpoint.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So in preparing for this RFP, we took into heavy account the resolution number 19-18 from 2018 dealing with federally funded projects and county procurement. We decided to go with the RFP process to ensure that we get the most qualified candidate. It is the most detailed process that we can go through when selecting an architect in this particular manner. One of the requirements that we have is to select the responsible bidders. In the resolution, responsive and responsible both have specific definitions. Responsive being that the bidder and their offer meet the requirements of the procurement, and responsible means the bidder has the means to execute the procurement that they have the ability to provide the goods and or services required. In this situation, MOA Architecture has specific experience in dealing with health buildings. That was one of the things that really stood out with them. In using the RFP process per the legal standpoint here, typically, we are, and as part of this, we're required to weight the fee proposal, the price, as the highest weight. Typically, you're going to end up going with the lower bidder because that's, we're dealing with the constituents' funds here. But I think we also have a duty to hire someone that is responsible and that is going to carry us through the end of the project with as few hiccups as possible to essentially end up saving money in the long run. So in this situation, we did give the fee the highest weight as required, but in going through the RFP process, we're also allowed to take into consideration these other factors. So when we considered everything as a whole, MOA Architecture did have the highest score. They presented the best, and we, under this, are allowed to award the contract to the bidder that has a higher price, even though they're not coming in as the lowest price, because they would be considered the most qualified for this. It is a fairly significant difference in between the different fees. Lisa did, after our interviews, call each firm and have a clarifying question regarding fees. Hein Bond did come back with an answer, and I can let her go into a little more detail with that, but they came back with an answer that their fee proposal wasn't necessarily what the fee was going to be, because they came up with a formula of, I think it was 6% of the overall costs. So if the costs were more than what they were anticipating that they would be, their fee would be higher. So essentially, they did not really comply with our RFP process because they didn't give us what the actual fee would be. So I think that kind of can take them out of the running because they didn't comply with the process. So we're left with GSG and MOA. GSG did have a significantly lower fee proposal, but I think in the long run, what MOA would give us in terms of their involvement and everything that they will do, even though they have a higher fee on the front end, I think it's going to be a cost saving in the back end. So when we're making this recommendation, we did have a unanimous vote that they would be, or a unanimous recommendation that MOA Architecture would be who we recommend. And I will turn this back over to Anna.
I might just add one more thing, that when I did contact the three firms specifically to clarify their fees, that Hein Bond did indicate that they arrived at their fee based on 6% of what their estimate of the construction would be. They indicated that, if it was in that range, their fee probably wouldn't change, but if it got way above that, it could change. So without getting into real nitty-gritty with every one of them, we just kind of left it at that. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule and some of the major milestones. This is the best opinion, considering that no work has really started yet. This is the best opinion of what the project schedule could be. The duration of the design work is estimated to be about 10.5 months, with about 3.5 months for bidding and negotiating with contractors. So there's about 14 months with those two activities. And then construction following is estimated about 16 months, with 2 months after that for final completion, kind of tying up all the loose ends. So essentially 18 months for construction. And then a full 12 months after that for a warranty period that is tracked the whole way. We wanted to show you kind of the significance of the overall schedule and how the two major dates that are stipulated when you do have ARPA funding, how those dates fit in. So the first date states that you need to have the funds fully encumbered or committed, or in this case, basically knowing what the construction contract is going to be for. So the estimated time that would be known is about August 31st, 2024, which fits within the deadline of December 31st of 2024, which is the ARPA date. So then you can see that the ARPA project funds have to be fully spent by December 31st, 2026, and the projected date for when the funds will be fully spent here is March 1st, again, ahead of the deadline that ARPA stipulates. Move into this. So, owner's representative. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the significance, and I believe you've all received a handout in your packet that kind of outlined what an owner's representative is. Is that correct?
Lisa, can you hold on just a minute?
Sure.
You can go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, why we're talking about this is that I think this project would be a good candidate for an owner's rep. An owner's rep is used for a lot of major projects, especially where the owners, or in this case the county, doesn't have a specific engineering or construction division that deals with this on a day-in, day-out basis. So basically, an owner's rep is a third-party person that's hired by an owner to act as your agent all the way throughout a construction project. This person starts at the beginning with the early design phases, working with the architect and the engineers. They do reviews of the design. They basically pay attention to what your interests are throughout the project. Projects of this significance and scale are going to have three major components that always need attention from day one of the design all the way through construction. These three components are quality assurance, getting what you paid for, adhering to the budget, and adhering to the schedule. And some days, those are all flip-flopped, and one's not more important than the other, but all three of those have to be maintained. So a qualified owner's rep is a communicator that coordinates between all of the entities, between the owner, between the county, between the health department, between the architect, the engineers, and the contractors. And they work back and forth with you. They're an advocate, like I said, that knows all your interests, and they protect your interests all the way. So when an owner doesn't have the expertise and the time to provide that extensive oversight and the management, it pays to invest in an owner's rep. I don't know, Tom, if you had anything you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, kind of going off what she's saying. As a past owner's rep for Casper College, in my opinion, this is the best way for us to go. Basically, it's protecting you guys. You've got somebody hands-on that's going to oversee this job. Any type of situation comes up, that person can speak fluently to you to let you guys know where you're at, what situations are in need of any type of response from you guys. So with that being said, an owner's rep is definitely the direction that we should go on this endeavor.
Another element that we just wanted to spend a minute talking to you about, and I think maybe a handout was given to this. It should have been titled Why, or What and Why Hire a Commissioning Agent. And I don't know if you have too much familiarity with these, but just wanted to point out, I'm not going to read all of that, but wanted to point out why commissioning is such an important part of a project. If there was just one reason to hire a commissioning agent, and again, this is a third party that's hired by you as the owner that works with the architect and the engineers, and they work with the contractor. They're in it from day one all the way through, actually all the way through the warranty period. So if there's just one reason, it's to catch any inefficiencies or any potential risk before they're costly or too extensive to remediate. So it's being proactive and not reactive. And primarily, we're going to talk about HVAC and building control systems. A little bit of electrical, lighting control, things that really cost a lot of money to purchase and install, and they cost a lot of money to maintain. So that's the first reason. If there's two reasons, the second is to reduce the initial building systems cost and the operational cost over a building's lifetime. The bottom paragraph there, they've done studies of larger buildings such as this, and the one-time investment in fees for commissioning can result in operation and maintenance costs anywhere from 8 to 20% below that of a non-commissioned building. And that's because you're starting out with a building that's been just gone through the ringers as far as quality and specific materials and how they work together. Again, Tom, I don't know if you have any comments on that or not.
I think you pretty much said it all. Basically, what this is a secondary commissioning agent that is going to go through these valuable pieces of this puzzle. On the HVAC side, there's several items there that these people will catch. And I can tell you, things will go wrong, improper installation, things of that nature. The commissioning agents will note this and hold them liable, and they will make them fix it, along with the electrical, plumbing issues as well. And that's what these people do, kind of a second party that will go through and investigate all these different components of your building and let you know where the failures are going to be. Because like she's saying, these are costly, as you guys are aware, these are all costly repairs. And it's easier to get the bugs out in the beginning rather than us going in after the fact trying to repair things that should have been caught before we turn that building over.
So we saved the best for the last. The project budget. We talked about a probable schedule. So now what's the probable cost for a new health building? And we use the word probable in opinion is because at this very, very early stage, you have to start somewhere. So this budget has kind of been put together using a maximum of 35,000 square feet for the building. That is what the feasibility, that study that was done about a year and a half ago, that's what that study indicated the size of a facility to contain all of the health department functions and all of the associations that they will have. That's the size that it probably should be. So just for numbers, we're using that right now in this budget. How many of you went right to the bottom line? I think that's instinct. That's what I always do too. But that bottom line, let's digest that a little bit because there's a lot of pieces and parts that made that. Any budget has to, any budget, anything that has any money involved in it has to have constraints, especially in a capital construction project. Every stakeholder, every owner stakeholder, every architect, every designer, every engineer, contractors, they have to know what those constraints are. And the budget constraints sometimes are the most difficult, but the most important to monitor and control. Are these projected costs exactly what they're going to be when construction is finished? Absolutely not. Guaranteed not. They won't be. But without starting with a budget, using the most realistic cost on any given day, and then maintaining that budget, you hopefully won't have any surprises that nobody can't recover from. So this budget shows the construction has a constraint of a maximum of $26.4 million. Everyone involved in the design, the architects, the engineers, the owner, Anna, her staff, anybody that's involved in this is going to know that constraint. The designers have to design to that number, and it's monitored. The owner's rep, should there be one on this project, is constantly looking at that and going back and forth and making sure that everything fits within that. The other division of a budget is the owner-carried costs. Those have the same constraint. This constraint on this budget shows about $5.3 million for all of the non-construction pieces of this project. These are things that the owner typically, from either a liability standpoint or cost standpoint, is the most cost effective. You can see up there the professional services fee. We went and plugged in that $2.22 million. The owner carried costs, the geotechnical investigation, soils, construction material testing, traffic study if necessary. We've got a line in there for the third-party building commissioning. We have a third-party owner's representative. You include that. Let me go back to the commissioning. That's about estimated at about $100,000. Third-party owner's rep is about $60,000, I believe. And then we go into furnishings, desks, tables, chairs, workstations, and yes, there'll be a lot of that that's reused, but this is a budget number to carry right now. IT, special equipment, a lot of that is going to be reused as well, but there's always going to be copiers, printers, computers, that kind of thing. And then contingency. Up in the construction cost is a 10% design contingency. Again, we don't know anything right now. So you need to carry some contingency that's going to be absorbed in those square foot cost numbers, the budget, the construction costs. As the project goes into design further, that contingency, instead of 10%, it should all be absorbed into the construction costs on bid day. The owner carried contingency was shown as 1.1 million. That is something that's recommended for any owner to maintain kind of that separate set aside to cover things that nobody knows, the unforeseens. Something comes up, where are you going to get the money? You've already got it covered in the budget. Again, this is a document, just along with the schedule, that's going to be monitored and maintained and make sure that it follows, everything falls within that. Once the design starts, and there's that checks and balances back and forth, maybe the building is estimated to be well below the 35,000 square feet. Then, of course, these costs are going to be incrementally decreased as well. And this is known early. As soon as everybody kind of gets that set, then we know what the costs are. And then that budget, at that time, is well known and it's monitored continually throughout. That's what I've got on that, Anna.
So to summarize, in order to stay on schedule, we ask for a decision to be made today, as the RFP timeline indicates, notification of the firms by June 7th. We recognize the significance of this decision and all of the things that go along with that, but we must get started in order to meet all of the deadlines for the funding requirements. I would hate to lose that amount of funding that we worked so hard to get. I can assure you that this committee did extensive work to ensure we pick the right firm for the greatest success in the new health department building. With that, we would like to open it up for questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Well, of course.
Any-
A short one. One of the first projects I had to get involved with for the county was this building up on the mountain. And so they came in and got an architect and all this and said it was 2.6 million and turned out to be 3.6 million. Now, as a lawyer, I've experienced this quite a bit. I see 31 million and I'm thinking 45 million by the time it all gets said and done. So I think we should do it today. I think we should get this going today. I'd like to see this project finish. I know you all will work very hard. We have a little bit of money, and so I'm ready to rock and roll.
Sir,
Thank you.
no, go ahead.
So, Commissioner Laird, you make a great point. We have spent a lot of time just this year on the lodge, and we're hopeful that we're making progress as we speak, but there still is quite a bit of uncertainty. I wasn't around when for the entire process, but I have been around for the last year. And I think sometimes you can be short-sighted and can go with, the cheapest product, the cheapest proposal. And I think this committee, under Lisa Hubbard's extraordinary guidance, she is a pro. And she has kept the committee on task and has really done, I think, everything not only expected, but above and beyond what's expected to make sure that we've been through this matrix and the procedure objective in the selection process. So I've been really impressed with her and the other committee members. And it's hard for us not to take the cheapest path unless and until you realize that that could be the most expensive in the long run. And so I fully support the selection of MOA for this project, knowing that they scored so highly in every area. I was impressed with their team, their RFP that you guys took a brief look at, their prior project experience. They've done in the last 2 years, I think, over 1 million square feet of health-specific facility projects. And I think we're going to be really happy with them as architects moving forward. That's my question.
Great question.
I think that was a long way to say you're ready to rock and roll.
So Lisa, I actually do have a question of you. So in the design phase itself, is it typical to be 10.5 months? I mean, total construction on this is 16 months. Is it typical to take that long to design something like this?
Yes, and that involves a lot of this early phases. Let me see if I don't know if we broke that out into, there's actually 4 phases that go into it. Kind of the preliminary design, which basically takes the feasibility study that was already prepared and just really squeezes and fine tunes and massages that to make sure that that is the project. I know that there's probably been a few, maybe functional changes since they did that. So you really want to take some time, probably 4 to 5 weeks to do that. Then you go into a schematic design phase, which again is taking all that information, massaging a little bit more, getting all of the engineers involved in it. Then you go into a design development phase, and all the time there's reviews and updates and budget reviews. All that is being done and monitoring the schedule as well in every one of those phases. And they don't move forward until there's a review and an approval, basically. And if it's not approved, or if there's concerns or questions, then they go back and they retool a few things. So then after that design development, then there's the construction documents. That's the phase that probably takes the most amount of time. It's putting all of this on paper, actually on computer, and then it's digested out on paper. But no, for a project of this nature, I don't think 10 and a half months is out of line at all. I think you want that. The more time you spend up front, the less time it's going to take, because everything's been fine-tuned in the end. I think it actually can reduce the construction costs, or construction time.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if we approve this today, which I feel like is going to happen, when will I be able to walk into that new building? Give me just an idea.
I think it's March of 2026.
Let me get you in there a little early.
Will you let me in? Because I've got a 4-year term here. I have no idea what happens at the end of that 4-year term. I'd like to see it built in the 4-year term.
I think it's there. Commissioner Laird, I think that fits in your 4-year timeframe.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it squeaks in there.
Yep.
A couple of these guys have only got a 2-year term, sitting right here. They'd like to see it done in 2 years.
If I could sneak an actual question in here?
Go right ahead.
Looking at your scoring for the interviews with the proposed fees, I understand the analysis of bond. GSG, though, why do you believe they came in so significantly lower than the winner, or the MOA?
I can't speak specifically to that. In my follow-up questions to them, all 3 firms, was, are you comfortable with the fee that you've proposed? like I said, there was a one-page listing, line item by line item, of everything that they had to include. We asked everybody, do you have all of this stuff in your feet? You're comfortable with that? And they all said yes. I didn't feel like it was my responsibility or even appropriate to ask them any further.
Okay, no, that's fair.
I mean, you know, there are, and I think from the interview presentations that were provided, there are less people involved in it, perhaps, on the GSG architecture side. MOA has a healthcare team that came with this. They've got maybe a little more manpower that they put on it. Those are just, you know, my
Speculation.
conjectures.
Yeah. Also, just not so much as a question, but nobody else is bothering with questions, so I can do too. From looking outside in with this process, with having you on, I really appreciate it. This has been, watching this go through, has been nice to see how it should work. Let's just put it that way.
Thank you. It's been my
Commissioner
pleasure.
North.
Okay, now I'm going to ask about the elephant in the room. The 31 million. Have we got a little over 9 million that we don't have allocated right now. Where are we going to come up with that?
Okay. It is an elephant in the room, but there are strategies that have been identified. We are working with grant writers to find other options that can be out there that we're not aware of at this time. Additional funding from different government streams, exploring relationships with other agencies, state and local, for leasing or other funding opportunities, refining the project after engaging the architect to look for specific cost savings. A lot has changed in the last 2 years, right? Recognizing what we were then versus what we are now and being really realistic with that. There are also the 1% loan that's available through the SLIB board. And I think that's just one of the things that, you know, we continue to work on and identify possible solutions. But I do have additional ones that I would like to talk to the commissioners about at a later date when we get through one hurdle before we open the other one, because I do think there are some very viable solutions.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion or anything like that?
One step at a time, Downs.
Thank you.
So now the recommendation's been made for MOA Architecture to be from this group, to be the architecture firm. Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Nicolason. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Laird.
I think I beat him on the first
I don't think
move.
you
I
did.
think I was an inch ahead, but that's okay.
Any discussion on it?
All I'm going to say is that this has been a long time coming, and I know Jim and I have been in a lot of discussions over the last 2.5 years on this as far as locations, design, and everything else. I'm glad we're finally getting to the point where we can move forward and get everything taken care of.
Any further discussion?
No,
Amazing.
can't believe all these lengthy discussions. Let's just get the vote going.
All right, with no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. MOA will be the architect.
Congratulations, you did a fine job.
Okay, we'll move on to the resolution 13-23, authorization ratifying the authorization of the Natrona County Treasurer to move all Natrona County funds from WyoStar 2. We have a motion on that?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Milne. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Laird. Any discussion?
Just briefly, the bank has notified us that, this is for the public, the bank has notified us, the treasurer's office got an email. I called the bank myself this morning, and they've assured us that our funds will be secure and be backed up properly at First Interstate Bank.
Okay.
Do we want to hear from the treasurer or anything? Does he have any comments?
Tom, do you have anything that we need to add to this, or? Okay. Way to go.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, first of all, are we wanting to close just WyoStar 2? Okay. Then, I got forms to fill out. So I'll do the one that closes it. Then there's gonna be T+2 withdrawal, and I'm still waiting to hear what that means. I would assume it's gonna be at least a couple withdrawal dates, but I'll let you know as soon as I find out.
Okay.
Don't let the grass grow under your feet.
What is a T2 withdrawal?
That's what I need to
He
find
doesn't know
out. I've got a call into the guy there now.
Can that
I
affect
think-
how much we withdraw?
Probably
I
pull in increments, I'd imagine,
Doesn't
not all at once.
I think, doesn't that mean the transfer order date plus 2 business days?
Thank you.
That's my
That's
understanding.
why we got Peter here, so we can.
Okay.
You pulled in, did you find out if you can pull the entire balance?
Yes, so
Oh.
far, they've,
so you don't have to
that's
pull
been
it
their,
increment.
that's been their indication with every conversation that we
Okay.
had with them.
Oh, okay, good, good,
Just that-
Very clear, and in
Alright.
their emails, that we could pull the whole thing.
Oh,
okay,
So, let's get her done in one shot if we can.
all right. And speaking of grass growing under my feet, I don't have any feeling in my left foot, so you'll have to let me.
We'll
know.
have Nick keep kicking you forward a little bit, okay?
Just as long as you get it done before the lunch hour is over with.
Can you let us know progress as it
Yeah.
goes forward?
Yeah,
please?
absolutely.
I think that'd make Commissioner Laird a little bit more calm, perhaps.
It will, and I need to be calm on this when it's, I only handle 100 million every couple months. It's not like I do it every day.
I can let you know when it goes into the bank.
That'd be appreciated. And if there's any conversation with the state
Oh,
where there may be a complication or something like that.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Man, you're a mess. And you're doing it still around the one thing that made the mess.
And with that, we'll be adjourned.